Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and welcome back to the Great Movie Ride Podcast. I'm your host Gaston, with the co-host Jerryofdom,
Yep.
and this week we will be discussing the 2021 film Free Guy. You know
Free
that
people.
that Ryan Reynolds movie that everyone saw a trailer for. It was like, that looks interesting,
That
but
was back in 2019, and you're like, well, when's it coming out?
it gets pushed back because of COVID.
I still remember watching that movie, and then it wasn't until the end, or even after, where you're like, yeah, that was a Disney movie. I was like, wait, what? So that's why they stuck
Yeah,
so many things into it.
yeah. We'll talk more about that later. Um, so do you want to kick us off with the previewing thoughts?
Uh, it was a Ryan Reynolds movie, and anything with Ryan Reynolds is gonna be funny, you know, majority of the time, and well, it's video games. That was about it. I was excited. I liked the movie idea.
Well, when I saw the trailer back in 2019, end of 2019, I saw the trailer going to see Rise of Skywalker. I almost called it Force Awakens. That was the wrong movie.
Hey.
But I saw it with Rise of Skywalker. And I wanted to see the movie. I thought it looked good, but it wasn't like on the top of my list to go
No.
see. And the pandemic hit, got delayed, as so many movies did. And then when we finally got close to its actual release, I saw some more promotional footage for it, and I was like, that actually looks really good. But I wasn't sure what to expect, and I think the movie does a very good job of not being what people expected it to be. But more on that later.
I didn't know what to expect from it. It was just like it gives off a video game vibe, but it's not like a Pixels type of movie
Mm,
where you're
yeah.
fighting the ghost of Pac-Man in the sky or something like that.
So our plot light spoilers sum up. We've got Free Guy tells the story of an open world video game where an NPC named Guy discovers he is in a video game and gains sentience. As a true AI, Guy attempts to figure out his life while pursuing the girl of his dreams, while the game developer in the real world threatens to end it all. And that is what the trailers have you believe is all this movie is about. But it's a lot deeper than that. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into what is actually going on in Free Guy. But before we get to that, it is time to talk characters. And of course, we're going to start with Guy Ryan Reynolds. And I'll start this time with the first one. Guy is a bank teller and an NPC who is initially unaware that he's a video game character. Now, you said that you like Ryan Reynolds like all the time, and any movies that he's funny. I have never understood the Reynolds hype. I've never been a big fan of Ryan Reynolds. But with that being said, he is really good in this movie. And Free Guy, honestly, he is so good that Free Guy has kind of turned my opinion of Ryan Reynolds around. He is so charismatic and funny, and you can tell that he's giving it his all. He's enjoying and just playing this role of Guy, and he brings a lot of heart and charm to it as well.
Yeah. Um. Well, I like Ryan Reynolds because he brings in those jokes that I like. He does really well in most movies I've seen him in, and he's funny, he's charismatic. But when the moment needs him to bring it down to a deeper level, he does it, and it doesn't feel out of place. There are actors where you see them do it, and it's like, okay, this feels unnatural, but he can flip those roles very easily.
Mm. So the next character we're going to talk about is Millie Rusk, who in the game is known as Molotov Girl, who's portrayed by Jodie Comer, a player looking for the source code of her original game called Life Itself inside Free City. And we'll talk more about what her full role is later. But like I said, we got to present what the trailers make you think is going on before we get into what's really happening here. So why don't you kick us off with Molotov Girl?
Uh, I don't remember what they presented in the trailers. Uh, it's female that got big guns, very threatening. She can kick some butt. She's looking for something very important. She She's funny. She likes ice cream and coffee.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Generally, we'd say what we like about or didn't like about a
Oh,
character.
well,
You know, we've been doing
you
this
made it
for
seem like it has to only be related to channel. Like, oh,
well, just when I
right.
briefly describe the character, I can only really present what the trailer said until we get to heavy
Oh,
spoilers.
okay. Well, anyways, I liked her character. She's very enjoyable. She's like fun, but not fun at the same time. Where it's like I don't know. That sounds weird. Um, but she has this way about her that's interesting in the movie, and I like it. What I didn't like so much was, uh, I don't know. I'm not one to hate on things that easily unless I really didn't like the movie, so I don't really hate anything.
Okay then. I agree. I thought she was a great character. Her chemistry with Ryan Reynolds was really really good. Um, and it's a great performance. And I think her performance was at its peak in the scene where she's talking to Keys about that guy is not a player. And just her acting in that scene is really, really good. um, Speaking of Keys, let's transition to Walter Keys McKee, who's played by Joe Keery, Steve Harrington.
Steve
Steve
Harrington.
Harrington. He's an employee of Tsunami who co-developed Life Itself with Millie. And of course, but I don't know if this would actually be known on the channel, but I am a big fan of Steve Harrington. He is my favorite character in Stranger Things. And Joe Keery is a great actor. And he has this charm and goofiness about him and a sarcastic wit, and he brings that into this movie as well, and it really works so very well in this film. He's like this calming, sarcastic note to everyone else around him, going like above and beyond, like Mouser
Yeah,
or
going with his uncles, and
Antoine
he's just kind of like,
or
yep,
even Millie. And he's just kind of like this grounding, sarcastic force. He was my favorite character in the film.
guy was my favorite, but he was fun. He, those scenes where he's helping out and things, and he's just kind of like sitting there as like the maid, like Molotov and Guy are doing their things, and he's just kind of like, huh, what's going on, and it's just like, what are you talking about? You're a little strange there, and he's very easy to just enjoy as a character.
Yeah. So let's talk about Buddy, who is portrayed by Lil Rel Howery. He's a Free City bank security guard and Guy's best friend, another NPC. Would you like to kick this one off?
What a security guard. Top of
Yeah,
his class.
yeah, yeah.
Best security guard there ever was. Uh, he's a great guy. Great heart. He doesn't worry about what's going on as long as Guy's there. He goes along with it. That's all that matters to him. Best friend you could ever see.
Yeah. He's got like this discount Kevin Hart thing going on with his delivery and even how his voice sounds sometimes. And he is a really good comedy relief character. He really is. He has some great lines all throughout the film. And as you're watching the film, you might think that, oh, he's not going to show up again because the story's kind of moved past him, but he comes back in a very memorable and great way. I have no idea what's happening, but I love it. It's so good. Um, so let's talk about Mouser, who is Key's co-worker at Tsunami, portrayed by Utkarsh Mbudkar. I hope I said that correctly. Um, Mouser, I have some mixed feelings about him. He was entertaining character for what he had, and his role is definitely important. He's the IT guy who actually does what Antoine wants him to do.
Yeah.
Um, and he does have like a completed arc, which we can't really talk too much about yet. But was it really deserved? I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's not really a problem in the film itself, and I still like
No.
the character, but he is my least favorite because of that.
I can agree with you there. He had those parts where I'm like, okay, anyways.
Mm.
But being a bunny is quite funny because they
That
are
scene was
apex
great.
predators. Apex predator.
That scene was great. And lastly, let's talk about Antoine Hovelchlik, portrayed by the hilarious Taika Waititi, Korg from the Thor films. He is the ruthless and narcissistic CEO of Tsunami. And why don't you kick us off with Antoine?
I love how expressive he is when he's doing a role and how he like does things and they don't work out or something. Like he just gives up this vibe where if I wanted to be a bad guy, knowing how I am, I would probably be like him. And he just has this way where like when he's sitting on the floor and he goes to hop up and he's like, "That's not." Anyways, I'll just get up like a normal person.
Yeah.
And it's just these little things that he does that makes it entertaining, and you still know that he's a human, still trying to look cool, but he's like, because he's the big company name, but he's not actually.
Yeah. I mean, like, in a film where every major character is putting in a good performance and they all like look like they want to be there. Taika Waititi quite clearly is having more fun than anyone else in this
Oh
film.
yeah,
And he doesn't even have like a ton of screen time, but like his rapid fire delivery of his lines, his hand movements, and him trying to sound cool like you mentioned is so funny. And while he's definitely the villain of this story, he is so much fun to watch. It
a
is great.
catchphrase is technically a great catchphrase or something
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that.
I love the secret handshake with Mauser, and then they're like getting all ready for like, get back to work. You're like, he is fun to watch. Um, so let's transition to the effects and cinematography. And the effects of this film are mostly solid.
Yeah, it
It
wasn't bad.
it's set in a video game, so it has a lot of visual effects on display in pretty much every single scene, but it looks pretty decent. The one thing that I will rag on for being subpar is dude's superimposed Ryan Reynolds' face. It doesn't look great in most shots. There are some shots where it looks okay, but it never really looks good. Um, so that's what I've got to say about that. What do you got for?
I think every time where they showed the game through the computer, you're like, oh.
Well, that was intentional.
I know, but it's still like, ooh, could have touched it up a little bit more.
I disagree with that being a complaint. It looks exactly like GTA 5, which is the most popular Let's Play game out there. And that's what they were going for. When you're in the game, it's obviously going to look amazing, but when you're just looking at it
Yeah.
through a screen, it's GTA 5.
Well, then I've got no complaints.
Well, no, you're allowed to have your opinion. I just disagree.
Well,
Uh,
you bring up a good point there. That's why I'm kind of like, okay, I see your point.
and the cinematography was pretty good.
Yeah. There wasn't like any super extravagant parts. Like this isn't like a top cinematography
Not at all.
graphical movie or anything. It's just like this is a good time movie that it's
Mm,
going for.
absolutely, it is a very good time. Like what I like, and is sometimes the problem with modern cinema, is you can actually tell what's happening in this film and the
Yeah,
action sequences. But when you look at films like, say, Batman vs Superman, where it's so dark, it's very hard to tell sometimes what just happened.
yeah.
That's not a problem in Free Guy, and I do love it when you can actually tell what's happening. Or look at Michael Bay's Transformers films, where everything becomes just a jumble of things happening, and all the Decepticons are gray, so you don't know what is going on.
You don't know who's fighting who except the Autobots. You know they're fighting
Because
Decepticons.
they're
You don't know who
colored.
though.
But was that Starscream who just had his arm ripped off in Revenge of the Fallen? Turns out, yes, it was, but you wouldn't be blamed for missing that.
Yeah.
um, and there was also, I did like its use of slow motion in some key scenes, like when they're on the motorbike bursting out of the window. Like there was some nice, clean slow mo used, but
When they're on the swings.
that was a nice scene. It's perfectly serviceable cinematography. So let's move to the writing and score. And I really like the writing in the movie.
I love the humor that is in
Yeah.
the writing. It
Mhm.
feels relieving because it's not like them trying to be super hard with jokes. It's like these feel like natural jokes or
Yeah.
just something unintentionally funny.
And the thing that I talk about a lot when we look at the writing is exposition dumps. And nothing feels like an exposition dump in this film. Though there is definitely some that is given, it's presented in a way that it doesn't feel like an exposition dump. You just kind
Yeah,
of get what's going on. It feels good. And I also think that this movie is a lot smarter than I think anyone was expecting, and that is because of the writing. It is very well written. And as you mentioned, it's funny, but it's also poignant. There are some tear jerking moments in the climax of this film.
oh yeah.
Anything
I think
else?
my favorite quote was like, "It's like my tongue had a baby with a sunrise." It's just like, or he's just resting. Just like these
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah.
things that they're
So
so funny.
sleepy. um, there are some great lines throughout. I love the scene where they're talking to the NPCs and guys like, Millie, how many times a day do you see a corpse? Never, guy. How many times a day is a bank robbed? Hardly ever, guy. What about gun violence, Millie? You got a lot of 9-year-old? Yes, it's a real problem. What? That was so funny.
Hello.
um, so the score is okay.
Yeah,
It's a serviceable score.
it's not anything spectacular. It's not trying to be. It's just a
Yeah,
good score with it.
nothing stands out
The Mariah
except
Carey song.
except for the soundtrack. The score is okay. The use of songs and reuse of some classic scores, very well done. Like the make your own kind of music sequence, um, which was that aforementioned motorbike slow mo action sequence, and mild spoilers that we won't explain yet. The reuse of the Avengers and Star Wars theme, very well done.
Yeah.
um, so let's dive in to the heavy spoilers. Warning, warning, heavy spoiler time.
Excuse me.
But if you haven't seen this movie yet, I mean, like, watch the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good movie. You'll enjoy it.
So, first chunk. Guy is an NPC in Free City, an MMORPG developed by Tsunami Studio. For those who don't know, that is a massively multiplayer online role playing game. Unaware that the world he lives in is said video game, he works as a bank teller alongside his best friend, the bank security guard, Buddy. Chunk one done.
But do you? But I like when every time he got his coffee, he cracked those jokes when he got it.
Mm-hmm.
They're so funny to me.
Yeah. I also love in this sequence that it shows Free City off with Guy's narration. It is so well executed that even though the plot hasn't even started yet, it just feels good with this
Yep.
happening.
You see Channing Tatum just jump into a car.
Yep. I have all of the cameos listed for when they pop up that I will mention.
Really?
And we'll see if there were some that you didn't know, because there are some I didn't know about that I was like, oh, look at that, as I was doing my research for this. So our next chunk goes to the real world. In the real world, Millie Rusk is trying to find evidence that the source code she wrote alongside her friend Walter Keys McKee was stolen by Tsunami developer Antoine Hovacek. I'm never going to say that last name right. It's said one time in the film, and I don't got it. Keys is sympathetic to her efforts but declines to help her because he has accepted a job working for Antoine at Tsunami. In game, Millie, who plays as Molotov Girl, attempts to exchange information with a broker for a clip containing the evidence of her game. This cameo is Hugh Jackman playing the broker,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was really cool. And he is completely masked. You would not know it unless you know his voice, because his voice isn't disguised. If you're listening, you will be able to tell that is Hugh Jackman. And upon finding out that it is in a certain player, Channing Tatum's stash, she's trying to figure out her next step. And as she's walking away from the deal, she catches Guy's attention by singing his favorite song, Fantasy by Mariah Carey, and he begins to deviate from his programming to follow her, much to Buddy's concern.
Yeah.
So, what sets apart players and NPCs inside Free City are sunglasses. players wear sunglasses that show them like the menu and objectives and levels and their stats. So Guy takes a pair of sunglasses from a player robbing the bank he works at. This player is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Really?
He wasn't Dude. He was that bank robber who Reynolds pumps full of the shotgun.
Oh,
He's so sleepy. He's so sleepy. Guy now sees Free City through the unique version of the player's interface and tries to catch up with Millie. There's our second chunk with two big cameos in there.
Is that the one with the two kids, like, playing as Dwayne?
Yep. They were playing as Dwayne.
Kill that mother! And then it just cuts off, and I'm like, bruh!
Yeah, the cameos are great in this film, and there's more to come. It's great.
I love the jokes that are, like, pointed at, because Ryan Reynolds makes a few, like, Australian jokes, because he intentionally makes fun of Hugh Jackman of having an Australian accent, even though he's Canadian.
Yeah.
I think I'm stupid. I don't.
Yeah,
think
wait a
Hugh
minute. Did you just say
Canadian.
Hugh Jackman? No, he is Australian. Wolverine
Yeah,
is
you know what?
Canadian. Wait a minute. I'm like just agreeing with this because I'm looking at a message on my phone that I'm like, what did I just agree with?
Yeah, I went. Wait a second.
No,
But he does make fun of Hugh Jackman unintentionally in this movie.
True. Probably intentionally because they have a well-known comedic rivalry going on. So in our next chunk, Keys and coworker Mauser, who believe Guy is a hacker disguised as an NPC, unsuccessfully try to ban him from the game. This is a cool action sequence where they use admin powers to try and ambush Guy. Guy meets Millie at the stash, a well-guarded compound that holds evidence of her source code. Boy, English. Thinking Guy is a novice player, she advises them to level up after their failed break-in. Rapidly progressing through the game by benevolently completing missions, in other words, in a game full of open-world villains who brutalize NPCs, Guy plays the hero, helping the NPCs, and levels up faster than anyone else. And because such, he stands out from the actual players and becomes a worldwide sensation known as Blue Shirt Guy. This segment sees cameos from Alex Trebek in his final film appearance before his death, the host of Jeopardy, Jacksepticeye, top of the morning to you laddies, Pokemon, Dan TDM, Ninja, and Laserbeam cameos. And also the host from Good Morning America.
Yeah. It was funny seeing Laserbeam because I watch a lot of his content, and he makes jokes about like brutalizing NPCs. And I'm like, that is very much correct because half his videos were like, "How many NPCs can we kill today?" And we're like,
the only one of those who I watch frequently is Jacksepticeye, and it was kind of cool to see Jacksepticeye on the big screen. That was pretty cool. And that is our third chunk with this montage of real world people reacting to Blue Shirt Guy.
Every time I see those scenes and I try to read the live chat and see what's being said, and because I wonder, like, how did they do those scenes? Like, are they just like done in a weird way, or like did they actually have a live stream that was just like locked in that no one knew about?
I don't know. It's a fair question. Jacksepticeye posted a video talking about his role in Free Guy, and if you look at the URL in his scenes, in every one of his scenes that shows his URL at the top, his name is spelled wrong. and Jack's like, I don't know why. I don't think it was intentional. It's just that's not how you spell Septiceye. it was pretty funny. So we head to our next chunk here. Guy helps Millie escape from the stash after her second failed break-in. Millie is bewildered when Guy wants to kiss her, as this function is unavailable in the game. Keys reveals to Millie that Guy is truly an NPC, and that his self-awareness came from the artificial intelligence code containing Millie's personal preferences that Keys had included in Life Itself, the original game they developed. This led Guy to develop romantic interest in Millie, while his interactions with other NPCs have led them to develop the same self-awareness that is this code that Antoine stole from them. We have another cut to real-world cameos from similar people, except we also get greeted by a blacked-out figure in this segment, whose voice is not disguised, but they're hiding his appearance, and that person is John Krasinski, Jim Halpert from The Office.
Yo.
Or alternatively, I can't remember his name, but the lead in A Quiet Place Part
Yeah.
1.
I don't actually know any of the characters' name from Quiet Place. So I feel like they never actually say them.
I feel like the credits would have said, but I don't know if it's said in the
Yeah,
film. I have no idea.
because they're trying to be quiet.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So that segment has that scene I mentioned earlier about them talking and revealing revealing that Guy is not an actual player. It was really well acted, a really good scene.
I love how he's like talking about like ice cream and oh, this tastes so good, all that. She's like, what?
You can
She's
taste
like,
this, yeah. Well,
what are you doing?
one of my favorite recurring jokes is when they're trying to determine his identity. And he's like, "My name is Guy," or "Where'd you get that face? I was born with it." And he just keeps on going like that. And then at the end of that ice cream scene, when Molotov Girls is like, "Millie, my real name's Millie," and he's like, "And my name continues to be Guy." I love that. It's so good. Um, so our
Or when they
next,
ask about his skin and he's like, I can't take this off.
I don't know
What are you
what you
talking about?
mean.
I was born with it.
It is so funny. Our next chunk here, Keys agrees to help Millie retrieve the code before Free City is wiped from Tsunami's server to make way for Free City 2. When Millie tells Guy the truth of his situation, he becomes frustrated with his reality and breaks off their relationship. After talking with Buddy, he realizes that there is something more to their reality. And this is where that poignant point comes in. Ryan Reynolds sells the acting in this scene and his conversation with Buddy. I
Oh my
really love the scene where Guy and Buddy have that conversation, and Buddy just breaks it down so simply. I'm sitting here drinking coffee, my best friend in the whole world. If this ain't real, I don't know what is. Like I love that. That was very well done.
god.
Uh, our
Yeah.
our next
It's just
chunk
so
here.
much.
With Buddy's security guard connections, they enter the stash again and discover that the player who owns it is a fan of Guy. This is Channing Tatum's character, who is played by, um, in the real world, by this. I didn't actually write down his name because I am a professional. Hold on one second. You see him in Stranger Things, and if you saw a series of unfortunate events, he's in that as well. Um,
I
it
feel like I've
is
seen him in something else as well.
quite possibly. And it is Matty Card Card Carteropol.
Leotis.
Carteropol.
Carteropol. Carteropol. Oompa Loompa. Oompa Loompa.
Oompa Loompa.
They should have Willy Wonka in this movie.
Well, that was random.
Should have had Willy Wonka.
Anyway, he plays the real world version of Guy, um, and who lives with his mother, who is a cameo appearance from Tina Fey, who plays the
Hey!
mother. We're still not done shooting out cameos, although those might be the last two. Those might be the last two cameos now.
Well, no, there's still at the end.
The bodybuilder.
No. When they bring out the shield.
Oh yes, I can't believe I forgot. I put all the other cameos in my notes in brackets. That one is not because I want to talk about that one. Anyway, and he is willing to give them the evidence, which Guy then gives to Millie. As Guy's continued popularity threatens to launch Free City 2, Antoine orders a reboot, which temporarily removes Guy's memories. Millie then restores said sentience by kissing him and recalls the location of the island from life itself, the only remaining part of that code, and it's the proof they need to save their game. There's our next chunk.
This was a more like pulled down scene. I felt. Well, no, that scene where he's talking with Buddy was pretty pulled down, and this one lightened it a bit more afterwards.
The Channing Tatum sequence.
Yeah, and then with figuring out about the island and everything, and it starts bringing you into the final
Final
part
act.
of the movie, the final act. It does it well.
Yeah. So let's talk about the final act. They become aware, or rather, Antoine reveals what is happening in the game. So, Guy and Millie attempt to travel to the island, so Antoine has Mauser try to kill them by doing a super incredible sequence of manipulating the city's terrain to throw buildings and cars. I thought it was a great sequence. Um, but his attempts are subverted as he's doing the best he can by Keys, who is around a corner. They have the worst security at Tsunami ever.
Yeah, obviously.
Hacking and stopping this, and also live streaming the event to everybody so they can expose Tsunami and Antoine. Eventually, he is caught and Antoine fires Keys. But this leads to a hilarious moment of the security guard escorting Keys from the building and not noticing Keys open his laptop and press more buttons. Like, they have the worst security at Tsunami.
He's just kind of like, whatever, I don't get paid enough for this.
Yeah. And then, in response to trying to defeat Guy and Millie, which was really just dumb on his part, because now that Keys isn't hacking everything, he could just have Mauser continue what he was doing. But instead, he tells Mauser to stop and send in Dude, a muscular, unfinished version of Guy that was developed for Free City 2 into the game. And when we say he is unfinished, his programming isn't complete, and it's just this vague appearance of Ryan Reynolds' face on a bodybuilder's body. And he says his famous catchphrase. And then,
I like when he's describing, like, coming up with the catchphrases, like, isn't catchphrase a catchphrase and all that? But it's like...
yeah. And then, like, he's like, my 3 favorite things are muscles, second thing, and another thing. Because he's not finished being programmed.
Oh.
They boot all the players from the server to try and eliminate Millie, which works. She is removed from the server. And Dude starts to pummel Guy. It's an epic action sequence, which leads to more cameos from the YouTubers, including Jacksepticeye with the Guy get up. And as the death blow comes in from Dude, Guy accesses his inventory and brings up Captain America's shield and blocks the blow, which leads to our final hilarious cameo of Chris Evans in a coffee shop watching the live stream. And his response is great, and is, in my opinion, it's the best cameo in the film. I love it.
So who's the bodybuilder, buddy?
So his name is
John Cena.
Aaron W. Reed is the name of... Well, he's a bodybuilder.
It should have been John Cena. Ding chilling.
Then he proceeds to use a Hulk fist as the Avengers theme blares to punch Dude. He then takes out a lightsaber, which has a great reaction when one of the Star Wars theme plays. He proceeds to use the physics gun from Gmod and the portal gun to finally defeat Dude by putting the sunglasses on him and making him see everything.
And it's like lights.
Yeah. Distracting Dude and allowing Guy and Buddy to make a last-ditch attempt to get to the island. In a final attempt to stop Guy, Antoine begins smashing the game servers with a fire axe, which manages to erase Buddy in the process, a very sad, powerful scene. Yeah. And then he fires Mauser when Mauser objects to helping destroy the servers. Before you can destroy the final server, Millie offers a deal: to abandon her lawsuit and give him the rights to her code, and her to surrender the profits of Free City franchise to him in exchange for the last server, as Guy reaches the island, exposing Antoine's duplicitous criminal activities. And then Antoine has this amazing line of, "You do understand this is the worst deal in the history of deals, right?" Because Millie gets practically nothing for this except saving Guy and the NPCs of Free City. Antoine accepts, and the game's inhabitants are, of course, saved. That is the end of our second last chunk.
Yep. And then there's that end bit. But...
Okay, we're going straight to the last chunk. Let's go. Without Millie's and Key's support, Free City 2 is a catastrophic failure at launch, while Antoine is vilified by the media and arrested for theft. Wow.
Theft.
Theft and criminal damage. Keys, Mauser, and Millie release Free Life using their recovered code, including Guy, Dude, and the other Free City characters. In the game, Guy reveals to Millie that his code is in fact a love letter to her from Keys. Millie leaves the game and she and Keys share a kiss in the middle of the street because that's safe. Meanwhile, Guy reunites with, you guessed it, Buddy, and they begin to live their own lives in their paradise-like version of Free City. Roll the credits. This movie
You know
was
what I
great.
thought of when they are like in the road and they kiss is that one scene when Guy is like trying to he gets hit by several vehicles.
Yeah,
And
throughout the
I'm just
film.
thinking, are they gonna get hit by a car or something?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm just expecting something horrible.
yeah. This was a great movie. Really, it
Oh,
was so much fun.
it was a fun, upbeat movie. You're in a bad mood, watch Free Guy.
Yeah,
It's such an easygoing movie.
yeah,
You know, I like the scene when they're all doing the talk to everybody, and everyone's like, "Well, how are we supposed to do this?" And then you mentioned that
yeah,
part
yeah.
where
That's
and
so funny.
just their all reactions to just everything, just being confused about things. They're
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. You can put your hands down. Nope, can't do it. It feels weird. What if someone tries to rob me again? Like it's that guy. I'm pretty sure in the final scene he's still walking around with his hands.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And guy like puts him like, "Hey," and he's like, "Oh, right."
yeah, that's right. That's right. And then dude getting to live happily ever after as well. It's funny.
I still just it was so funny watching it with the glasses on. He like tries dancing around, pulling right around. Like, he
He
ain't
is
it.
not a dancer. Yeah, it was so good. So let's transition to our favorite and least favorite scene. Would you like to go first? For
Okay,
favorite.
favorite scene probably that final sequence of dude versus guy. I don't know. That just felt so much fun.
It's my favorite too. Guy
Yeah.
versus dude with the like you got the Chris Evans cameo, you've got like the fist pumping nature of it, and you've got it's Jacksepticeye who gets the final word of "Get up, guy," and it's like that's what made this. It's like this movie is just so ridiculous because in like the span of like 2 minutes, you see a bodybuilder beating up Ryan Reynolds with Ryan Reynolds' face on the bodybuilder. You see Captain America's shield, Hulk's fist, the Gmod physics gun, the Obi-Wan lightsaber, the portal gun. You see Chris Evans and Jacksepticeye, all in the spans of like 3. This is the only movie that could pull this off. It
Oh
was
yeah.
just
Definitely.
insanity. Uh,
See, Disney needs to make more movies like this
yeah.
because they have all these like things they can use because they're throwing jokes about Star Wars and stuff all the time. They're like
Mm.
I'm the Emperor and all this, just different things. So do it more often because
Mm.
it's so enjoyable and fun when you do it.
Yeah, you can tell that because of the pandemic, after the Fox Disney deal, that they went through and they added that sequence with the
Oh yeah.
lightsaber and stuff, because there's no way they would have given Fox permission to do it before. But they
Oh
used
no.
that extra time to get in that amazing sequence.
Oh yeah.
My least favorite scene would have to be the deal negotiation with Revengeman Buttons, which was Channing Tatum's character. I'm sure a lot of people found it hilarious, but for me, I just found it awkward and really hard to watch. Like when he's trying to grind up on Ryan Reynolds, and I'm sure some people found it hilarious. You're laughing. Me, it was just hard to watch, in my opinion.
That's reasonable.
Your least favorite scene?
Um. hmm, I'm horrible at picking a least favorite scene, Peter. I'll just pick the same scene because I can't really think of too many.
Fair enough. Our overall rating. You go first.
Give it an 85.
We were not the same this time. We were close though. I give it an 83%. It is a very enjoyable film. Don't get me wrong. I just
Yeah.
when I do my rating, it's not just about how much I enjoyed the movie. It's about how like well made the movie is and stuff like that. And like when it doesn't have an incredible score, doesn't detract from my enjoyment, but it does affect the score a little bit. and everything's weighted by importance, and the score's not that important. That's just my example. So it's like Dune, it was the second highest rating for a film in 2021, but I would say I enjoyed Free Guy more than I enjoyed Dune.
Yeah.
Because Free Guy's funner. But to be honest, I'd rather watch Dune again, which is like a bit of a contradiction, but it's because Dune is so epic.
Interesting.
It's epic. Free Guy is a great thing to just kind of chill and watch. Next time, we are diving into the 2018 animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, getting ready for Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. Make sure you tune into that. Check this, let me try that again. You can check us out on YouTube at the Gmod Squad, where we post gaming content. We also stream on Twitch at the Gmod Squad Presents on Sundays. You can take a look at that as well. And of course,
streamers now.
And of course, this podcast is available wherever you're listening to it now, and on YouTube, and pretty much wherever your podcast's at. And make sure to spread the word, and we will see you all in the movies. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.